What are the 4 key things that the Dallas Cowboys can learn from the Bengals as well as the Rams as we sit at home? I get into it at Boss Cowboy Sports. Let's get it. Well, football season is getting ready to end. We're a week away from the Super Bowl, and a lot of us, we got a chance to reflect. And obviously, I've been doing some reflecting, and this is actually a video I've been wanting to do for a while. And I want to talk about some of the 4 key things that I believe could really help the Dallas Cowboys if we learn from our competitors. And we gonna get right into it. Number 1, we need less hands-on football control. Now, control is not necessarily bad, because as an owner, as a GM, because he's the only one that's both owner and GM, sometimes you have to police a certain type of culture. That is okay when you have to step in. So if it's an issue of fairness, if it's an issue of the best man beating out another man, that is where the head person should have always the veto right when they are enforcing culture. But the meddling of football affairs is what's been hunting us for some time. Since we learning lessons, we can learn from Mike Brown, because Mike Brown also was hated. I'm not gonna say Jerry was hated, but definitely Mike Brown was not liked, and sometimes you can just say it's not liked by the Bengals fans for a while. And it's clear, it was extremely clear. So if we just take a small little brief look at history, in 2018, the Bengals was actually writing articles directed at Mike Brown, asking, is Bengals owner Mike Brown dumb, lazy, or both? So sometimes when we going through with our own owner, it's hard to kind of see the forest from the trees and look around and see that it's a lot of people that's upset at their owner even more than we are. Years of ineptitude worse than we are. And this is not new. And if you just watch the history, in the articles, January 3rd, 2021, Madeline Zinger asks, is Jerry Jones or Mike Brown the worst NFL owner / general manager? So those two are compared to each other and are pretty much put at the bottom. But then something happened. Something key happened. Mike Brown did what a lot of us want Jerry to do. Now, Jerry would never, ever relinquish full control, because as long as he's the owner, he always will have veto power. So if he stepped down from GM, it don't matter. His title don't matter. He could always veto whatever he wants to. He can't fire himself. But what he can do is he can pull back his meddling, his day-to-day affairs in football operations. He could sit back and let the guys make their decisions as you hired them to do. He could do that. That's what Mike Brown did. And just that quick, is it a coincidence that all of a sudden the Bengals, in less than 1 year of him not meddling anymore, in less than 1 year, all of a sudden they're right back in the Super Bowl? Well, how does something like that happen? Well, that happens because Mike McCarthy said it best. Mike McCarthy said, when you get in the playoffs, a lot of those games are decided by literally 1 or 2 plays. You can go through almost all the playoffs and you'll see that's true. So when you got somebody that's hands-on, that's meddling, and they try to tweak something or twerk something that goes into those 1 or 2 plays, that can decide the outcome of a playoff win or loss. So we go get more into that. But that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, what's funny, they was writing articles insulting him, like the worst type of insulting things to say. Now all of a sudden, it's totally changed. Now, if you look at Cincinnati and look at what they saying, they said, has Bengals success changed perception of Mike Brown? Wow. So earlier is they calling you dumb, lazy, or both. You step back, and from stepping back, you get called smart. And that's what we want Jerry to know, is you don't have to have your hand in everything to be smart. So, getting into the second point of what we can learn, because that's obviously something we want Jerry to learn. The second thing is, frankly, we need to be greedy for all improvements. Going back to Mike McCarthy's point, where he talked about in the playoffs, those games are decided by 1 or 2 plays. Just think about that. So as we're going through the season and we're going through ideas, remember, there is not one idea that shouldn't be taken serious if it's a well thought out idea. Because let's think about it. How many times did kickers win those playoff games? Y'all remember Kansas City? Y'all remember the Bengals? When he walked out there and he needed to hit that kick to win the game, and he walked out like, I'm getting ready to hit this kick, because he was doing it all year. But we talked about staying greedy. We was not greedy. Nor was we loud about us not being greedy. Because when we had Kai Forbath, he was kicking at 100%. He didn't miss any kicks. This is where Jerry should have stepped in. When I talked about enforcing culture, fairness, he didn't even compete. Greg Zuerlein was assumed to have the job coming off surgery, which probably affected him. So at that point, we wasn't being greedy, nor was we greedy with Zeke versus Pollard. They came out and they let it be known that Zeke's knee was hurt much earlier than most people thought. Most people thought it was the Denver game. It was earlier than that. And I'm not one of those that say Pollard better than Zeke, Zeke better than Pollard. They complement each other. That's how you should see those guys. And people make real weird, well, not weird, but they think they thinking it through and they're not. Because they say, well, Pollard had a high average per carry. I mean, you got to look, how is he used? Or is he used in the interior? Or is he used on the edges? That makes a difference. Is he used after the defense has been softened? Or is he used fresh? That makes a difference. Because we've seen running backs like Felix Jones, right? He had a higher average than Barber. But who got the tough carries to close out games? Barber. Murray and Randall. Randall had a higher average than Murray. But who was the closer? And who did the tough jobs? So people look at average, and it's like you got to look at how they're used. And then sometimes that will explain the average. But still, the bigger point is Pollard should have got more touches, especially with Zeke being hurt. It's not saying Zeke is not the better back or not worth the money he was paid. It's more so, just being factual, it's more so we needed Zeke to heal to get him ready for the playoffs. We also was not greedy with the debate on Steele versus Lyle versus Connor Williams. Yeah, all three was in that debate, the best five debate. A lot of people took that for granted. They took that for granted. But then as we was sitting in the playoffs, that big chunk play was taken away because of Connor Williams. And it was a lot that could have been done if we would have jumped on that early. So what are some of the things we should learn? Number 2, we gotta stay greedy for all improvements during the season. Very aggressive about it. That's a very important one. Number 3, we need emotional leaders. Because remember, when the Rams was playing San Francisco, they was losing. San Fran was doing what they normally do, physical, going at them, showing a lot of heart, a lot of moxie, typical. And the leader of their team got everybody together, right? Got everybody together and got them in a huddle and start giving them the business, letting them know this is it. You don't get no more. This is it. And they won. They turned it around. They played with an even higher level of intensity. But Dallas, let's be honest, Dallas did not learn that lesson. I'm gonna show you, because after the Denver game, I talked about it and we didn't see the correction. Watch this. But my final words, because I came out of the game trying to figure out solutions, right? So I got about 3. Okay. Number 1, I'm gonna see if I can get some amens on this. We need to assign emotional leaders. The team captains need to have a quiet bond that when the team gets flat, that they are the guys that are assigned to rally the rest. And it gotta come from leaders. It can't come from people that's not dominant voices. Dak can't be sitting down when the team is flat. Curse can't be sitting down when the team is flat. Michael, just think about the 90s, and I'm not on the 90s jock, but I'm just really just being honest on what made them who they were. When times got hard, Aikman was talking loud. Nate Newton was loud. Aikman was loud. They didn't play flat, bro. So you don't, if I see a flat as a problem, create a solution. Because that could happen again. It can be the playoffs. We can be getting our ass whooped. And it needs to be a plan. Like, okay, we flat. What do we go do to get these guys a problem? Let me just rewind that. Create a solution. Because that could happen again. It can be the playoffs. It can be the playoffs. We can be getting our ass whooped. And it needs to be a plan. Like, okay, we flat. What do we go do to get these guys up? They need to and be organized about it. Who are the guys that's going to do that? I'm going to be looking for that going forward when times get tough. Number 2, I want to see smart contingency plans. Yeah. So I went into that first because you can see when we was flat, we never got out of that. We never got out of it. We stayed flat and there was no solutions to that. So definitely one of the things that we can learn for sure, we still don't assign emotional leaders. We still don't have guys when a team is flat that's gonna rally everybody. We are still an X's and O's team, and we are not leading sometimes with one of the most important things, and that's emotion. Number 4, we need to stay humble and aggressive during good days. That kind of sounds like point 2. but it's not. We do need to stay humble because we're not. So when we was 6-1, people was throwing out and they was saying, what should we do about Odell Beckham? Now, the air that a lot of us had was, we're good. We don't need that. We have Gallup. We have Cedric Wilson. We're good. But, hey, the Rams, they're better with Odell Beckham. And you got to ask yourself, what made us have that type of flippant attitude? As if this guy wasn't a former first, a clear Marshalls, a former great. That would have been our number 2 or number 3, maybe even a number 4. You telling me Dak with Odell Beckham as a number 3 or number 4 is not way better? Especially knowing that he loves route runners? Yeah, we're not humble. We're not. Let's just be honest. We're not humble. Like, look how we talked about Cheeto. Cheeto said when he left Dallas, he said, I'm excited to be playing for a contender. We scoffed at it. Cowboy fans, as if we got this long, recent history of being contenders. He said the Bengals are contender. We scoffed. We did. We wasn't humble. And look, he in the Super Bowl. We at the crib. Yeah, we scoffed at it. So we honestly cannot stay humble or be humble if we don't realize who we are. You know who we are? Let's be honest. We Al Bundy. We Al Bundy. Yes. We are Al Bundy. So Al Bundy was a former great football player for Polk High. He always talked about it in the show. And he relived those glory days. But he relived them so long to the point he almost didn't realize that the current Al Bundy was a shoe salesman and he sold women's shoes. That's who we've become. So we don't, we got a great history, but we don't have room to scoff at opportunities. We don't have room to scoff when players say, I'm going to a contender. Cole Beasley said the same thing, and we scoffed at him. We sure did. We scoffed right at him. So basically, we ain't got room, and we got to be humble as fans, as an organization, and seizing opportunities. So the next time we get an opportunity like a Odell Beckham, I think it needs to be met with more openness instead of bouginess. The next time somebody say they getting away from us because they want to be with a contender, we need to do real self-reflection and say, why would somebody as skilled as a Wuze and Cole Beasley talk about us like that? Are we dysfunctional? And we should ask that question. But yeah, if we learn those 4 things, we will improve. Yeah, so we need Jerry Jones to pull back. He shouldn't be having his hands in Steele versus Lyle. Get out of that. We need to all stay greedy for improvements. We need the emotional leaders, and we need to have a plan for it. Just like the Rams did. We need to have a plan. And we need to be humble. We need to learn from this, and we need to stay, aggressive because we're humble. and do self-reflection so we won't be sitting on the couch this time next year. Boss Cowboy Sports, where your voice matter. I'm out.